Fanuel Kaseke, good evening and welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you very much for having me here tonight.
It's a pleasure to have you here, and I can see you, the red is with you, you'll never leave it wherever you go.
It's loyal, it's a revolutionary color, carry table.
And actually, I've been an admirer of your hair. How do you maintain such a nice hair?
I invest more time in my hair, actually more time in combing my hair than the time I invest in bathing. It's a trademark.
Tell the viewers, who is Fanuel Kaseke?
Well, I don't know where to start. Fanuel Kaseke, I was born in Howard Mission Hospital in 1994. And I grew up, learned part of my primary education actually. I did 3 different schools. I went at St. Albert's in Croatia, I went at Nyakunjka, which is also in Croatia, as well as Wazan and Zoe. I then later did much of my primary school, Zizai Primary School, in which through the Prefects Board, Head Board, 2007. And then I also went to Sekewan, nearby school in Shtuiza, where also I served in various positions. I was junior member of parliament. I was a senator actually, 2010, and then boy. Later, I came to the University of Zimbabwe. I always call it the oldest institution of higher learning in southern Rhodesia, Nyasaland, where I ran for elections. I was enrolled for political science, which I graduated last month. My first degree. I ran for office actually when I was part 1 for SLC president. It was quite an interesting experience. I lost the election to politics, but I learned a lot of things. I later ran for elections, which now saw me to the position which I'm living now as the SLC president. I was raised by a single mother, which has been the driving force for every platform that I've got to utilize and maximize the potential that I have. I think, in a nutshell, that is Fanuel Kaseke.
Wow, okay, that's so profound and so touching. Mr. Kaseke sir, you say that you grew up in Shtuiza, most of your life you grew up in Shtuiza, and coming from a place like Shtuiza, it's a place where so many struggles build a character to become, we may say, to become a leader. So what can you say from what you got from Shtuiza that built your character to become a leader?
As you have said, it's a struggle, it's a ghetto, it's jecha. I always tell people, I was actually talking to other gentlemen, they were telling me we learned Tama, and all those fancy schools. We learned at schools where we had to jump sewages so that you get to the school gate. But that never really affected how I speak. I think my English is speaking for itself. Living in that environment, it was always a burning desire to have something outside of that. So I was not controlled by my internal environment. I always desired what was out. So it was those struggles that pushed me to be a better person, to how can I develop the society around me. I need not to think like the society. I always get inspired by the quote by Albert Einstein, who says to solve a problem, you don't need to think, to solve a problem, you don't need to think at the original position in which the problem was created. So I always try to think outside the box, and I think that molded the character that I am today as a leader. And also being ghetto, there were also people that made it, whom we always looked up to. And it was just to try to prove, as I've talked about my mom, always tried to, appreciate her efforts. As a result, I tried to find the best that was in me.
Wow, that's very nice. So, Mr. Kaseke, you also said that you started campaigning when you were part 1. Now, according to my understanding, it is like a taboo for a part 1 to run for election. And you said that you lost for that election. How did that make you feel as an ambitious leader, as someone who was ambitious to achieve his goals?
Talent, everyone can be a president, but not everyone is a leader. I'm a leader. Like I said, I lost to politics. For me, I didn't lose the election, I lost to politics. Politics is a dirty game, it is a number of variations. What I managed to do, before I ran for elections, nobody knew who Fanuel Kaseke is. But when I ran for elections as a part one, people knew Fanuel Kaseke as a courageous young man, a very bold young man. So that was the stepping stone into the Kaseke that we now know in terms of student politics, in terms of student activism, student governance. So I think whatever the outcome of the election was, it helped to mold the person I am today, because it was a platform to grow and appreciate students' governance at a more depth level.
Now, Mr. Kaseke, as we all know that leadership is not a position, it's not about position, but it's about function. So I believe you as a leader, you have so many things that you've achieved now. So we would like to know about your achievements, your successes. So please care to share with us.
Talent, the SRC deals with a lot of things on a daily basis. Our mandate from the Constitution is to represent students as a group as well as individuals. I think I would really much focus on policy issues so that I don't waste much of time for viewers. In terms of policy issues, we initiated, unfortunately we didn't have enough time to finish amendment of the SRC Constitution, which will be handing over to the incoming SRC to ensure that it is finished. There are a lot of loopholes. We're also pushing in terms of legal offense for the amendment of Ordinance 30, which is an act which regulates the behavior of students on campus. And I'm happy to say that there was a first draft that was produced, and now they are also making additions to the second draft. You know, most student leaders have come and go, promising to make sure that Ordinance 30 is amended, but that never saw any fruition. We also propagated in terms of legal affairs for the establishment of Students' Appeals Committee. One of the challenges that we had in the Student Disciplinary Committee is that once a student goes there, the most inevitable punishment that a student would get was either suspension or expulsion. Without any other office, it was unfortunate that you were expelled by the Vice Chancellor, but for you to come back, you need to appeal to the Vice Chancellor, who is the very same person who is expelled you. So now we have a Students' Appeals Committee, which I was sitting myself. There's one student representative, the Dean of Students, and then 3 members from the University Council, which is the highest decision-making board at the University of Zimbabwe. And now students don't have to look for lawyers to go to High Court. You can now appeal within and have a fair hearing. In terms of academics, we had a lot of issues that came on a daily basis. One of the things I remember at one point in time, students that were doing applied media, AMAPs, the university had removed attachment. We stood with them until the Vice Chancellor later reversed the decision and reinstalled. Another thing that we stood with students was the increment, accommodation fee increment. Last semester, the university wanted to increase accommodation fee, which they did. Yeah. But what we managed to ensure was that it was increased into a reasonable figure where most of our parents are vendors, some are civil servants, could afford. Mm-hmm. We also had, especially with non-resident students, problem of transport. Yeah. We managed to talk to the then Deputy Minister of Transport and then the Managing Director of ZUPCO. We had our first ZUPCO, there were 2 that were applying the route. It was not just ZUPCO that decided to apply the route CBD to campus. I will not talk on other individual issues that we dealt with. Okay. But basically, in terms of issues to do with policy, these are the main nuggets, as well as right now, students were complaining about tuck shops, faculty tuck shops that were closed sometime in October. It has become very difficult for students to access food.
Yeah, exactly.
We did an audit, myself as the president, the dean of students, the director of tax of all the tax shops, made a presentation to the university executive. And there was a policy was created on faculty tax shops. They're going to put both in all the faculties, I think 5 booths actually,
Okay.
as well as at the rank. And also the rank is, if you've seen the rank now, it's more like bottom secret.
Yeah.
The university is actually building a new rank. I think the work will start maybe soon after, during the vacation. They already have a partner for that. So a policy in terms of tax shops, not really, we don't really like to call them tax shops. This is a university. It's not bottom secret. In terms of food outlets, in which we manage to ensure that in the food outlets, students will have their quota. It's not only the university outsourcing, students will have their quota, and then students are also going to be running. If you go to Students' Union building at the basement, is that place where DAX, the Department of Catering and Accommodation, has been. The basement is going to be run by students. Some of the facilities, they actually belong to the Students' Union. So they're also going to be running that facility. It is up to the incoming SRC and the Students' Union as a body to ensure that these policies that are implemented as well. In their implementation, they're executed perfectly well. I would say in a nutshell, that's the major achievements of the 2019 to 2020 SRC.
Wow, that's so great. That's so great. And you mentioned an issue of presidents coming and going. And like now you're the outgoing president and there's somebody else coming in. And you have policies of yourself that you already put in place. But the other president that's coming might have different policies. And how can that affect development on the University of Zimbabwe? And can you, as you tackle that, can you also state the problems and challenges you faced as a president?
You know, Talent, I remember when I was in this other meeting and I gave a position of the Students' Union. It was a Student Affairs meeting, Student Affairs Committee meeting, SAC. And then they didn't say that, but your term of office is ending. But it's not about my term of office, it's about the Students' Union. It's not about the SRC. The president is smaller than the Students' Union.
Yes.
The SRC is smaller than the Students' Union. The Students' Union is 19,000 students. So if a policy is being made, it's not about the leader, it's about the entire student body. There should be policies. What we are doing, the problem that we had before is that there was never handover takeover. When we got in office, we never had a proper handover takeover, which we are going to ensure that there's a proper handover takeover of issues, so that issues that are pending, the SRC deals with what is pending to ensure that it is finished, as well as if they have their own policies, they then amalgamate or augment the pending policies with their own policies. In terms of challenges that we faced in implementation, of course, time will always be a challenge. There was also the effect of the macroeconomic hyperinflation that I alluded to. There was no money. The subscriptions for students, it's $1, and you have in your coffers something around 17,000. If you want to hold one bash, artists are requesting money in US dollars. That means one bash, 2 big artists, you no longer have money in your coffers. Also within the SRC, issues to do with unity. You know, we are voted from different unions that have different interests. That is the likes of Zikosu, Zinasu, and Yard. You end up fighting within, not realizing that the bigger vision is the students. And also you have lack of support from the students, student affairs itself, from the administration itself, that also hindered progress. And the red tape, you know, the University of Zimbabwe, it's pretty much painful. Once you have an activity that you want to be done, you write to the dean then write to the VC, that might take a month. And if it was a function where you want an artist to come and you postponed, he's booked the other day and then you end up failing. I think that were the major challenges that we faced in our tenure. And I think the most important and critical that most leaders or SRC representatives that leave office never get to talk about is once you get in office, you become an enemy of students. And these students are the students that you want to represent. and then you are representing them to the administration. So you are now in between students and administration. So you go to the administration, you say, I'm representing students, they have 1, 2, 3 issues. You go back to the students, they are fighting you, and you have to fight the students that you are fighting for. So I think the idea that we're propagating, concept of engagement, it's not about the SRC, it's about the students' union. So if the SRC fails, the students' union fails. Every student must have a sense of ownership of the union. Not to say it's the SRC, no. Because unfortunately, you find that if anything good happens, it's the administration. If anything bad happens, it's the SRC. So you become the black sheep, and it's quite sad. When I was in 1-1, there was an election, pitted the winning candidate was Tunatenda Mungu. And the next one, which I also campaigned the following semester, which Stephen Sikrai won, and then the one that I ran again. And now we have this, which is my 4th election. I've seen very strange voting patterns at the University of Zimbabwe, which should not be anticipated in an institution of higher learning, especially a premier institution of higher learning like the University of Zimbabwe. People vote for very funny things. People vote for drink, people vote for a friend with chocolate.
I hope they didn't vote for the nicer.
Of course, some will vote for those that are good looking, but of course, my hair also means called some votes with a couple of females.
Obviously.
But what would you expect is a candidate who is able to deliver. General assessment, what students are saying, especially the so-called Mapatwobo, is that we have weak candidates. That's their opinion. But my view has always been, don't judge them against me or the predecessors. Judge them against themselves as candidates. Different political views, different backgrounds, where they are coming from. But what I would expect from students is to look for a candidate who is the capacity to represent them. You don't vote for a president specifically, a person who cannot talk. A person who cannot speak. You don't vote for a president, a person who cannot think on his feet. A person who cannot be controlled. If you don't have an individual opinion, you are not worthy of being a president. Because you're going to sit in the university council where the rest are university professors. They are professors, rather. They're captains of industry, they're CEOs, they're doctors, they're engineers. And you're an undergrad student. Your ability is your self-worth, the ability to believe in yourself and to speak. So when students are voting, let us not be swayed by the outward appearance. It will not last. We might love that somebody, of course, they have a picture with Ningi, so we're going to vote for them. Of course, they're good looking. But for an SRC president, you need somebody who is strong in terms of individual character, capacity to think on their feet. And those are things that I think students should start be weighing and start to see as the candidates are presenting in different lecture rooms, as they're talking to students one-on-one, in dining halls, as well as in halls of residence. Their ability to articulate issues, their ability to defend. Because one of the things that is inevitable the next semester is that accommodation and tuition fees are going to be increased. And if you don't have someone who is strong, no one will speak for the student. And another thing is somebody who, I'll tell you, last semester I attended one lecture. I will not talk about the previous. Neither will I talk about how many lectures I've attended this semester. But it is that bad. So if you're not intellectually gifted again, that's why I was during the break as I was talking to you, that another achievement is that I managed to graduate as an SRC president. I've had 2 previous SRC presidents before me that didn't graduate. So if you're not intellectually gifted, you're going to sacrifice one thing for the other. So as a result, if you're not intellectually gifted again, either the students are going to suffer or you're going to suffer. So these are things that students have to put into retrospect as they choose the next leader. And I want students to look at all those characters and tenets that I spoke about and see who exactly in the 4 candidates embraces those. It's not about the outlook. You don't need to love a leader. He's not your husband or your wife. You just have to vote for a leader because he's capable to do his job.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily need to love him. It's not like you want to marry him. He has to represent you. If he has the capacity to represent you, vote for him so that he carries the mandate.
Okay, so profound. So, Mr. Kaseke, when you were campaigning for presidency, you had strategies and ways you used to win the people and all. So, what can you say? Like some closing remarks you can say, some word of advice you can give to the fellow campaigning students that they may take as they campaign for presidency.
Just before I came here, I met a group of ladies. I was helping some of the candidates to campaign. And then they said, you are the first group of people that came that are very articulate. Some of the people that are coming cannot even talk, they're not even convincing.
Yeah.
To convince people, you need to be able to talk.
Exactly.
If in your team, you know the candidate is weak, at least you have somebody who is not a candidate, who has the ability to talk.
Yeah.
It's about what you have to offer. I know people will be chanting slogans, but people forget that. If you meet one-on-one with a person and you convince them on what you have to offer and tell them the truth, these are university students. They are not candidates from Uzumba or residents of Uzumba.
Yeah.
They are university students. There is certain qualification for them to be involved in this institution. So, and also, it's politics. Unfortunately, I'll tell you, when I was in 1-1, I was the best candidate. When I was in part 1, I was the best candidate, but I wasn't the best politician.
Okay.
So history has said that politicians win against good candidates. So they also need to play the politics. It's the game. They also need to play the politics so that they stay afloat. So they need to engage. Engaging with students is the source. Don't stay on social media. And also on the day of the election, have people, because election, as you said, it's won on the day. They should have people that mobilize voters. You know, I stay in New. Sometimes just to go to NC5 to see a girl.
Yeah.
How about me having the courage to walk, to ask you to vote for somebody? You really need to have convinced me to have that courage, to get off my bed, my hostel, and walk to student union. So they need people that will mobilize for them on the day of the election. I think that is very vital. So I think they need to be very clear about all the candidates in their strategies and what they are promising, to ensure that they stay within what is feasible and not expose the students to great danger. We will not withhold our shambok if you expose the students, especially in terms of health.
Okay.
We will whip them into the proper trajectory.
Yeah, true. So, Mr. Kaseke, one last question. We would want to know, and as well as the viewers, that is Mr. Kaseke single or is he searching? The ladies are, with all the nice hair and charisma, the ladies would want to know. So, can you please just...
If I say it's complicated, we have answered your question.
That's right. Give a proper answer.
I don't know. I think I'm not single, but I don't really know where I am, and that's the truth. But I'm not single, and I'm not searching.
Okay.
I'm not searching. Those two are
stable.
I'm stable. I'm not single. I'm not searching. I'm stable.
All right.
But in my stability, I'm shaking also.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kaseke, for gracing us with your presence. There you had it, folks. I'm sure you agree with me that it was a very interesting discussion with Mr. Fanuel Kaseke as we got to dispose most of his life and all his reign in office. And I'm sure you're anticipating for the next show as well.
Hello, good people. I'm Fanuel Kaseke. Don't forget to subscribe. Campus Live TV. Cheers.